Hello, everyone. My name is Amit Shrivastava. I'm a program manager with Azure Networking. In this session, we will talk about how to build a highly performant, highly reliable, and available application using Azure Product Suite. So, before we start, let's do a lay of the land. We will talk about only the services which pertain to Layer 7 HTTP web application traffic. Our product suite also contains other offerings like Traffic Manager and Azure Load Balancer, which are more general purpose and suited towards TCP, UDP, and HTTP traffic. But we are restricting only to Layer 7 product suite. Now, a way to think about this is to divide them into two categories. In one category, we have Azure Front Door and Azure CDN, which operate at the network edge. These services are not running inside our data center. They are not in your virtual network. They are operating in our points of presence or POPs, as we call them. These are outside Azure regions, and they are much closer to your end users. Thereby, they often offer closer SSL termination and caching capabilities, which increases performance of your application delivery. In the second category, we have application gateway, which is also a layer 7 load balancer. It's an application delivery controller, which operates within a region. But here, you also have choice to run it as a purely private entity. So it can talk to your intranet applications. The key difference is that application gateway being ADC is regional, whereas front door and CDN operating at their network edge are global in nature. Once you have chosen your layer 7 product suite, you can augment them using our security services. So we offer specialized security services in our product suite, and these include Azure Web Application geared towards layer 7 protection from malicious attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and so on. We also have Azure DDoS protection, which offers protection from distributed denial of service attacks. And finally, we have Azure Firewall, which is a firewall which offers protection for your VNet for both inbound and outbound traffic. And it's more general purpose. It's not just for HTTP, but it can be for any protocol. The good thing is that you can choose these products and apply, and they work well with Layer 7 product suite. So we recommend customers to choose the Layer 7 product suite and then choose the security services which they want and work with them together. Before we go forward, I wanted to take a few minutes and talk about Microsoft's global network infrastructure. We operate one of the biggest global infrastructures in the world. This is not just running for Azure Front Door and CDN, but it also is for entire Microsoft traffic. We have 160 plus POPs or points of presence, and more are being built. We also have 20,000 plus peerings with various exchange providers and 60 terabits per second of network capacity. This is truly a massive network. One key attribute here is that these are not leased lines. These are our own fiber optics. These are our own cables which we own. So it is a fully private network and one of the biggest in the world. Going forward, we have launched Microsoft CDN and Azure Front Door in 2019. But the key point is that this is not a newcomer in the space. We have years of experience running massive web applications on this platform. The platform started in 2012 with Bing and has onboarded most of critical entities in Microsoft, be it Bing, be it Office, Xbox. Quite a lot of Azure infrastructure itself runs on front door and CDN capabilities. In 2020, we added LinkedIn to this same network. And I'll cover a little bit more about LinkedIn in the next slide. But this is a battle-tested platform which has been delivering the key Microsoft services for years. And we have rich experience in running these for Microsoft. So in 2020, Front Door onboarded LinkedIn to its platform. Now, LinkedIn already had a pretty specialized network. But even then, transitioning from their own network to front door, they saw a median page load time improvement of up to 25% in many regions. Even in established regions, their page load times were significantly improved. They are at this moment they are doing more than 650,000 HTTP requests per second. You can read more about that in the blog link which I have posted here. The key point over here is that even a specialized network moving to front door has seen quite a lot of performance gains, and the platform is serving one of these biggest entities in the world today. So let me talk about the key capabilities of the front door and CDN platform. Both of these products run on the same infrastructure, on the same POPs, and they offer differentiated functionality. Azure CDN is catered more towards static content. It's a content delivery network, and thereby it offers you page load improvements in static content like images, JavaScript. If there is something which can be cached at the POP itself, then you avoid going all the way back to the region to fetch that content. So we offer a lot of acceleration using content delivery network with Azure CDN. We recently added capability to have multiple origins with Azure CDN. Moving on, with Azure Front Door, you get the dynamic aspect of traffic delivery. So think about if you have to present an API which is globally distributed and has origins in multiple regions, and you want to avoid failovers because of any region going down, then Azure Front Door can offer you the API acceleration as well. So this is for dynamic site acceleration. And here we added quite a lot of recent capabilities with rules engine and wildcard domains. The third key capability over here is with the security product suite. We offer web application firewall. The platform is built in resilient to DDoS protections. So the platform will absorb DDoS attacks. We also offer bot prevention, which utilizes Microsoft's threat intelligence. These product suites are also integrated with Azure Sentinel. So if you wanted to present this data to a cloud native SIEM system like Sentinel and analyze it, that capability also exists. Both of these products are cloud native. They're cloud rebuilt. They're born in cloud, and therefore every single aspect of these products are driven by APIs. There are no behind the scene calls or something which works only with a UI but not with API. So you can fully automate this whole platform using CLI, PowerShell, SDK, ARM templates, and it is integrated deeply with the platform. So it utilizes common platform things like Azure Monitor, Azure Metrics, and alerts, and therefore it is ready for your DevOps integration. So we talked about Azure CDN and Azure Front Door. Here is a quick recap of where they are useful. So Azure CDN, as the name implies, is for static file delivery, video content delivery, live videos, and any kind of assets which you can cache in the POPs. So in all of these scenarios, you will use Azure CDN. Azure Front Door is geared more towards dynamic site acceleration. If you have services which require a global load balancing or protections using WAF, any API-based applications which are geo-distributed will benefit from Azure Front Door. So this is a quick intro on when to choose which product. I'll go deeper into each of those products. So Azure CDN is Microsoft's content delivery network, and we offer 3 partnerships. We have Verizon and Akamai, and we also offer Microsoft standard CDN. So it's a multi-CDN ecosystem where you as a customer can choose which CDN provider you want to go with. Now, each of them have their own capabilities and strengths, and we have documented those in our public website. I would encourage you to take a look at that. But you as a customer get to choose which provider you want to go with. A key benefit here is that there isn't any long drawn contract process. You don't have to sign a 12-month contract. It's a quick pay-as-you-go service. And at the same time, you get all the benefits with a cloud product. You get 24-hour support, you get rapid response, you get our specialized customer advisory teams, and you also have access to all the benefits which a cloud native platform offers, like alerting, monitoring, all integrated within the same Azure services. You can also get Azure Commit and EA discounting with the same product. So we have simplified the billing, and we give you choice to choose a partner, whether Akamai, Verizon, or Microsoft CDN, without binding you into any contract. And as I mentioned earlier, this is suited for media workloads, static traffic assets, anything which you can cache in the POP and thereby get acceleration. Moving forward, Azure Front Door, it provides you application acceleration. We see anytime you have, even within a single region service, if you have multiple regions, sure, Front Door will take the traffic from the user and direct that traffic to a data center which is closest to that user. So you will get acceleration through that. But there are many other optimizations which we have done, be it split TCP, keeping warm connections, doing SSL termination closest to the user. All of these mechanisms end in giving you a remarkable acceleration in page load times. So this is suited for dynamic acceleration. It provides many flavors of smart layer 7 load balancing. You can do session affinity based on a cookie. You can, of course, route traffic based on path. You can route traffic based on latency profile. You can even do priority load balancing. You could have active passive pools. You can do weighted round robin load balancing using Azure Front Door. And therefore, if you had a blue-green deployment scenario, that can be taken care by Front Door as well. We offer SSL acceleration. So anytime a user tries to establish a session, that is terminated closest to the user. And thereby, it saves quite a lot in the round trip time. Not only that, we provide security with Azure Front Door. So imagine if you had multiple regions and the same application was running in 3 or 4 regions. Now, instead of deploying a WAF or a security product in each of these regions, you can deploy that and manage that centrally at the edge itself. So now you're blocking your attacks far away from the origin. It need not overwhelm your origin. It is blocked at the edge itself, closer to the user. With all of the optimizations which I talked about, you also get faster application. Let's go to Azure WAF. WAF stands for Web Application Firewall. And Azure WAF is integrated directly with Azure Front Door. So you can have a central WAF policy and apply that policy on Front Door. The benefits are obvious. You can get a central security, which is applicable at the edge. The protection which Front Door WAF policy offers can be categorized in 3 buckets. We offer a very flexible custom rules engine. Here, you can, using these custom rules, you can write your own geo-filtering rules, or you can write your own rules to block an IP or block a header or any request which contains a certain header or request parameters. So this is a very powerful custom rules engine. We also offer a pre-configured Microsoft rule set, which provides you protection from top vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting or SQL injection, whether it is local file inclusion or remote file inclusion, OS injection. So it offers protection built in without you doing anything from these vulnerabilities. So the moment you put Front Door and enable one of these policies, without changing any line in your backend code, you are already protected from this. We also offer a bot management protection. This is in preview right now with Front Door. And that takes into account our own threat intelligence data feeds. So we generate an IP reputation feed based on many different parameters which Microsoft Threat Intelligence gathers. And we feed that into our web application firewall so that it can, at very short interval, it can determine whether a given IP has a bad reputation. The WAF at the edge is a recommended solution for any public facing internet application. If you have an application which is purely intranet, only works with private IPs, then we also offer the same WAF integration with our application gateway, which is a in-region web application firewall. So WAF policy, think of it as a general purpose policy object, which you can apply to the edge to get protection from a public facing internet site, or you can apply it in region application gateway as well to get protection for intranet application. You can in fact choose to have WAF both at edge and in region. So you could have a setup where front door is talking to application gateway in the backend, and both are protected by differing WAF policies. For example, front door, you could have a WAF policy which is giving you rate limiting protection, bot limitation, mitigation, as well as geo filtering. And then you could have another WAF policy at closer to the origin, which is giving you more protection from other kind of attacks like SQL injection or OS injection. So it's very, very flexible, and it integrates with all of Azure services like Azure Sentinel or Security Center. And it also provides you detailed logs and alerts. So this is a recap on common use cases with these services. So if you had a scenario with OTT and live video, you will choose Azure CDN. If you had a scenario with static files, large files, or static objects, again, Azure CDN is your default platform of choice. For API and content delivery, which is dynamic in nature, for example, e-commerce applications, mobile applications, IoT applications, you will use Azure Front Door. For many services like enterprise applications or retail applications, which include both components where they have images and static assets to cache, as well as they require dynamic delivery and have geo-distributed user base, a combination of front door and CDN can be used together. In many modern microservice environments, you would use Azure Front Door as your egress point, and then you would send the traffic to something like application gateway, which can act as an ingress controller to your Kubernetes clusters or AKS clusters. So these are the common use cases where you would use front door, CDN, and a combination sometimes with application gateway. In general, we recommend that for any web-facing traffic, you use Azure Front Door and CDN and protect them using Azure WAF. Very recently, we announced GA on Rules Engine. This is a very strong capability which allows you to perform many applications like injecting a header, modifying a header, injecting or modifying a cookie, and they enable many different scenarios for your application. For example, you can add HSTS headers now to all outgoing requests, responses from AFD. You can use this rules engine to header and parameter based routing. For example, in rules engine, you can say if an incoming request matches certain criteria, then send the request to a particular backend pool. Using this, you can do conditional logic, which can say if there is a header present with such a value, then send it to backend pool 1, otherwise send it to backend pool 2. The same thing you can do with query strings as well. If incoming request presents certain query string, then send it to a backend pool, otherwise send it to a different backend pool. You can modify your responses. You can modify your caching status. It's a general purpose capability which gives you a lot of flexibility in how you route traffic, how you inject, modify, or delete headers or cookies, and how you can inject these same things in outgoing responses as well. As I mentioned, this is completely conditional. You can either do it on all requests and responses, or you can apply conditions which are applied only when a set of conditions are met. And you can chain these conditions as well. So you can say if request has a particular URL pattern and it already contains a particular cookie and it contains a header, only then take certain action, which could be invalidate the cache, or it could be cache this object, or change the caching time and rule, or inject another cookie, so on. So this, I would strongly recommend utilizing these capabilities, which is now enabled with Rules Engine GA. Another very often asked feature was wildcard domains. And with very recently, we have launched support for wildcards as well. So now you could have a domain which could be a star.contoso.com. And this simplifies your application delivery considerably. Now you don't have to create multiple domains like a.contoso.com and b.contoso.com. If they are all going to the same origin, then you could simply have one single domain, a wildcard domain, which is star.contoso.com. You could use Rules Engine to further granularly send traffic going forward, but you don't need to manage multiple domains. And you could do by BYOC, bring your own certificate with wildcard certificates. So that is also available for you now. Finally, I would want to close with this reference architecture, which shows how you can use the three services which I have talked about today. This is a canonical example of a large enterprise application which contains content which are static blobs or media content, as well as dynamic content. For example, there could be an app service, it could be a function, it could be talking to application gateway, which is acting as an ingress controller for an AKS cluster. So you can combine both of these static and dynamic assets using Azure CDN and Azure Front Door Service. And you can also offer security on top using Web Application Firewall. Web Application Firewall, in this case, gives you protection from OS top 10 vulnerabilities, bots, and you can also apply flexible custom rules and policies. Using CDN, Front Door, and Web Application Firewall accelerates your application delivery as well as provide security at the same time. I hope in this session you learned more about CDN, AFD, and WAF. Thank you for attending. I hope you have a good day.